Hello everybody, good noon. Welcome to my online class. This is MD Raisul Islam, assistant teacher in English, Bangladesh Railway High School. We know that we are passing a very critical time. Don't worry, we teachers are standing beside you to help you solve all the critical problems of grammar English language. I am here to take a class on changing sentence assertive to interrogative. You know, this grammatical item seems very easy, but it becomes difficult when you get yourself absorbed in only structural analysis. Today I will show you how a grammatical item can be very easy. So I am picking this easy item. You know, this item is required for all the classes starting from class 6 to class 10. So that's why I have picked the easiest item for you, because this is my style to take the easiest item and then do the difficult item step by step. So let's start. Today's class, you know, I have already mentioned here assertive to interrogative. First of all, you have to know the assertive sentence very clearly. You have to get the clear idea about assertive sentence. What is an assertive sentence? Okay, let us write here and I will give you the easiest definition of this assertive sentence. Try to note down this. Assertive sentence is a sentence which gives us a description or a statement about a person or a thing or a particular matter. Okay, I have already told you that assertive sentence is actually a sentence of giving statement. This is something to describe. This is about something. That means, okay, let us take an example, and I would like to tell you one more thing, that assertive sentence can be formed in many ways. But most of the students do not know how many ways are really involved with assertive sentence. That's why sometimes they become baffled to solve the problem or to change the sentences into interrogative sentence. In what way that is possible? They look for grammatical rules, they then search through their memories. What were the examples, what were the rules? But let me make you very easy. I will give you the basic structure of all the assertive sentences that can be formed in this way. Right? If possible, basic structure, that is subject plus auxiliary verbs or main verbs plus objects plus extension. Okay, my dear students, one more thing, always remember that assertive sentences begin with a subject. It must begin with a subject. So you will need to have a close look whether the sentence begins with a subject or not. If it begins with an auxiliary verb or in another way, then that is not assertive sentence. That is not an assertive sentence. That is not an assertive sentence. So you have to be very careful to watch the subject. Then auxiliary verb. I have already told you that these auxiliary verbs actually work as a main verb sometimes. You know that you see that there are many auxiliary verbs in English sentences. You know about, but let me write some auxiliary verbs. Many students do not to know what are the auxiliary verbs. All the auxiliary verbs can be said like this. Auxiliary verbs and is, are, was, were, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, have, has, had. Okay, auxiliary verbs. Knowing auxiliary verbs is very important for making assertive sentences into interrogative sentences. So it's very important. At first, you need to have a very clear idea which are auxiliary verbs and which are not. So their auxiliary verbs can be categorized into 2 or 3 categories. Maybe this is, you know, that be auxiliary verb and is, was, were. Then model auxiliary verb we have can, could, shall, should, will, would. Then may, might, and then you can tell have, has, had, as it to have auxiliary verbs. Okay, these auxiliary verbs are available in our English sentences, and they're, you know. So to know auxiliary verbs is very important, because whenever I'm going to make an interrogative sentence, at first you will go for finding auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs, to know auxiliary verbs is very important. Let's take a note that is first of all, for doing interrogative sentences, you need to know whether the sentence, whether the assertive sentence has or gets or covers an auxiliary verb. Okay, fine. So for doing interrogatives, you need to know whether the assertive sentence has or covers an auxiliary verb. Okay, if you get the auxiliary verb in the sentence, then take the auxiliary verb before the subject. That means place the auxiliary verb. Okay, let's take an example like here. You see Bangladesh. Example, Bangladesh is a country of scenic beauty. Scenic beauty. Okay, try to ask yourself whether this sentence covers an auxiliary verb, whether this sentence includes an auxiliary verb. Yes, you have got the auxiliary verb, be auxiliary, that is. If that is so, then place the auxiliary verb before the beginning of your sentence. Is, and for the rules of changing sentences, you need to add not with the auxiliary verb. Is not. If there are other auxiliary verbs, just add not with that auxiliary verb. It can be either is, are, or can, could, shall, should, whatever the auxiliary verb can be. Just add not with that auxiliary verb, and then place the subject Bangladesh. Then write the rest part of the sentence, a country of scenic beauty. Scenic beauty. Of course, never forget to put an sign of interrogation. That means to put a mark, interrogation mark. Never forget. At the end of the sentence, put an interrogation mark. Is not Bangladesh a country country of scenic beauty, put an interrogation. Okay, that's all. That's all done about this into making an interrogative sentence from an assertive sentence. So, very easy technique to see whether the sentence includes auxiliary verb. And first of all, you have to get a good knowledge of all the auxiliary verbs. That means you have to know these are the auxiliary verbs. That's enough. Am, is, are, was, were, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might. I think I missed another model auxiliary, that is must. Okay. Have, has, had. These are the auxiliary verbs. Okay. When you find these auxiliary verbs available in an assertive sentence, then take the auxiliary verb, place the auxiliary verb, add it with not, and then write other words that were missing. Write other words of the sentence. Easy. It's very easy. Just take the auxiliary verb, add not with the auxiliary verb, then write down other words serially or subsequently you just write down other words. Then it can be done for an interrogative sentence. So I will show you other sentences, other examples, and at the end of my classes I will also give you some homeworks so that you can make these sentences into interrogative sentences. You know that using other auxiliary verbs, there can be other sentences like this. Rana has been reading a novel for 8 hours. If I ask you to make interrogative sentence of this long sentence, it doesn't matter. Just try to find out whether the auxiliary verb is included in the sentence. Yes, here you have got an auxiliary verb, that is to have auxiliary, has. So take this auxiliary verb before the beginning of the sentence, add it with not, has not. Okay, then you have written the auxiliary verb adding with not. That's fine. Then write other words serially or subsequently like this. Rana has not been reading a novel. And never forget to put an interrogation mark. Has not Rana been reading a novel? There are other words. Never means writing other words. Actually, sorry for making a mistake here. Has not Rana been reading a novel for 8 hours? For 8 hours. Actually, I was thinking about making a class hurriedly. I'm not used to taking a class very hurriedly for online class purposes. I always make my classes interesting and try to make the classes very clear to every student. So I don't care about how much time it actually takes. But today it's my first class. I thought how to cover the time and how to, it's my online class. So don't worry, I will get used to doing these classes continuously if possible. So then it's not a matter actually. So this is about making an assertive sentence into interrogative. If that assertive sentence contains an auxiliary verb, then how to do it very easily? Just take the auxiliary verb and then place the auxiliary verb adding with not, then okay, write down other words serially. It can be done. Now the question rises, if I do not find an auxiliary verb in a sentence, how to make an interrogative sentence? How can I make it an interrogative sentence? It's possible. It's very easy. Let me go for the next part of my class. Well, I always prefer taking my class and until my students become clear about all the things, I do not finish my classes. But today, actually, I know that many students do not know their auxiliary verbs properly. So that's why I'm putting an end only for the thinking that always I give my lessons how much, depending on how much they take, how much they cover. I'm giving an exercise, home task for you. Making some sentences for your homeworks, and then I will also give another exercise. You just try in your home. Let me give you some example exercise, home task for you. Home task, that is ox buzzer. Ox buzzer is the, ox buzzer is the longest sea beach or beach in the world. In the world. Can you mark the auxiliary verb here? Yes, of course you can now. After the end of my class, you are now clear about which are auxiliary verbs to take in the word. Interrogative. Procure was doing the work for a long time. Now, if an interrogative sentence, begins with an auxiliary verb, then you can also make that interrogative sentence into assertive sentence. Just taking the subject and then place the auxiliary verb, omitting not. That means then you should not use not with the auxiliary verb. When you are making this, okay, let me show you. Are you sick? Are you doing the work? If I ask you something, this question then, okay, there is no not, there is no use of not. But when you are making an assertive sentence, then remember that you have to make that negative form of the auxiliary verb. If there is no negative form, then you have to make a negative form at first for the auxiliary verb. Like this, then are you doing the work? Okay, fine. If you are asked to make an assertive sentence, you have to write like this, that you are not doing the work. Because there is no negative form. So you have to add negative form when the negative form will not be available. Okay, in the next class, I will also make it very clear to you. Okay, then birds are beautiful creation of the Almighty. Interrogative. And another home task, that is write down a paragraph on about your country, using auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs, and then make interrogative sentences. Of that very paragraph. The paragraph may take 20 sentences or 25 sentences. Just write 10 sentences or 15 sentences using auxiliary verbs. Of course, using auxiliary verbs. All the auxiliary verbs I have already told you and written here on the board. Then using auxiliary verbs, you just try to make 10 sentences or 15 sentences. Then you just also try to make interrogative sentences of those 10 sentences that you wrote for the making the paragraph using auxiliary verbs. Make other 15 sentences for interrogative. Well, today's class is almost going to be ended here. So I hope you have enjoyed my class. From the further classes, I will make other things very clear to you, my dear students. Thank you very much for your cooperation, for listening to my speeches carefully and writing down the notes. Thank you all. Stay safe and stay healthy, and of course never forget, clean your hands before touching everything. Thank you very much.